Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going into this crazy world of tech and social media and also the creator economy with, all the latest news. We've got some fresh articles from social media today. It's hot off the digital press. Are you ready to see how these worlds are kind of like smashing together? We're going to be talking about LinkedIn, trying to get on your TV, Snapchat, changing how people shop, and Reddit. Well, Reddit's doing something really interesting with its data.
I think the most fascinating thing is how they're making so much money just from data licensing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their revenue from that is up over 500% year over year. So that's not, just a small amount.
100%. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued now. So before we go too far, let's zoom in on Reddit. They've had a pretty good third quarter of 2024.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
They have like 97.2 million daily active users, which is a huge jump from last quarter.
Yeah.
And over half of that growth is from international users, which I think really shows how smart they were to invest in those machine translation tools, breaking down language barriers.
Makes it accessible for way more people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. But how's that translating into revenue? More users, more engagement, that should mean more money for Reddit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, their revenue's up 68% year over year. They hit $348.4 million. Advertisers are seeing that there's like real value in being on Reddit and reaching those users who are super engaged.
Wow, that's a lot. So I know you mentioned this earlier, data licensing, which isn't something you typically think about when you think about how social media platforms make money.
Right, exactly. You usually just think about ads.
Yeah.
But Reddit is making bank by licensing its data specifically for AI development.
Interesting.
Think Google, Meltwater, they're all using that data to train their AI models. And that's where that 547% increase comes in.
That is wild. What makes Reddit's data so valuable for training AI, though? Like, why Reddit specifically?
Well, I think it comes down to the nature of the conversations on Reddit. It's not just people posting selfies or sharing links. It's, real in-depth conversations about all sorts of different topics.
I see.
And that nuanced language, the diverse viewpoints, it's gold for AI developers.
So it's basically a giant database of conversations for AI to learn from.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing.
And it seems to be working. Their success suggests we're moving towards more authenticity and genuine interactions online, which is something I think every platform wants right now.
Okay, speaking of trends, let's talk about LinkedIn because they are generally known for, job hunting and professional networking.
Right.
But now they're trying to get on our TV screens. Is LinkedIn the new Netflix?
Maybe not quite Netflix, but they are going into connected TV advertising.
CTV, okay.
Yeah, so think those streaming services like Paramount Plus, Roku, Samsung ads, anything where people are watching on their TVs these days. It's a fast-growing market, and, LinkedIn wants in.
So instead of getting those job ads on my computer, now I'm going to start seeing them on my TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so, it's different, but do you think it makes sense? Like, are people really in a work mindset when they're just, watching TV, relaxing?
That's a good question, and it seems that LinkedIn has been thinking about the same thing. Their research shows that a ton of their users regularly watch CTV, and a lot of them are actually in those decision-making roles in companies.
Oh, interesting.
So from their point of view, it makes sense strategically to reach those professionals where they are already spending their time.
Okay, so it's like they're going after a very specific audience.
Exactly.
People who have probably more money to spend.
Yeah.
It's like those late night infomercials, but for businesses.
Yeah, it's a bold move. They have a captive audience. They're probably more receptive in their downtime. And LinkedIn has all this data about their professional interests.
Yeah.
So you know that targeting could be really attractive to advertisers.
It will be interesting to see how that works out, them trying to kind of bridge that gap between our work life and personal time.
For sure. But, we can't forget about AI. Remember we talked about AI being trained on data from Reddit? Well, LinkedIn's also diving into the world of AI with a new tool for recruiters called an AI-powered hiring assistant.
Ooh, AI for hiring.
Yeah.
That sounds either super helpful or kind of scary. What does this AI hiring assistant actually do?
Well, basically, it streamlines that whole hiring process.
Okay.
It can automatically pick out the best candidates, write those first messages to reach out, schedule interviews, take notes during the interviews, and even manage the follow-ups. It's like having a super efficient assistant who only focuses on hiring.
Wow, that's a lot of automation. That could save so much time. But I do have some concerns about it. What does this mean for people who are trying to get hired? Do we all need to start optimizing our LinkedIn profiles for AI?
It's a valid concern. As AI is being used more and more in hiring, it's definitely becoming more important to understand how those systems work, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just about keywords anymore. These AI tools are getting more sophisticated.
So what do people need to do then to get hired in this world of AI hiring? Is this going to be like algorithm appeasing 101?
Maybe, yeah. But I also think companies need to be really upfront about how they're using AI in their hiring process.
Yeah,
What criteria they're using. It's got to be a two-way street.
absolutely. It'll be interesting to see how all that shakes out. I feel like this is just the beginning.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears a little and talk about Snapchat, which is known for its like disappearing messages and a generally younger audience.
Right.
What are they doing these days? Anything besides those filters that make me look 10 years younger?
Well, believe it or not, they're becoming super influential when it comes to people's buying
Oh,
decisions.
really?
Yeah, especially among those younger users.
Interesting. I've always thought about Snapchat as like a place to share selfies and funny videos,
Yeah.
not a place to shop.
Right, but that's what's so interesting. Snapchat has done some research, and their data shows something totally different. 87% of Snapchat users say they love to shop, and 71% even consider it their main hobby. Plus, they're totally fine with making those big purchases online.
Wow, 87%. That's huge.
Yeah.
So what's driving all this shopping on Snapchat then?
Word of mouth, I think. 84% of Snapchat users discover trends and new products through social media, and they trust recommendations from friends and family way more than on other apps.
So it's all about like authenticity and see what their friends are excited about.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So what does this mean for like marketing and businesses trying to reach, this younger crowd on Snapchat?
Well, it means it's all about building that trust and getting them really engaged. Forget the overly polished ads. Think more about influencer marketing, user-generated content, campaigns that feel natural and authentic to the platform.
They're definitely onto something there, especially when you think about how younger people are kind of skeptical of traditional advertising. Word of mouth is definitely a good way to go. But they're not just sticking to filters and shopping, are they?
Of course not. Remember who we talked about LinkedIn and AI? Well, Snapchat's also got big ambitions, and they're getting serious about augmented reality with their Spectacles project.
Oh yeah, those AR glasses. I've seen a lot of hype about them. Where are they at with that project now?
Well, they just shipped the newest version to developers over in Europe for testing. They're even charging a monthly fee for access, which means they're really committed to building this whole ecosystem for developers to make those AR experiences.
Okay, so Snapchat's taking a developer-first approach with these glasses.
Seems that way, yeah.
Interesting. But when can regular people like me expect to be able to try them out?
Well, it's still kind of early, but both Snap and Meta, Facebook's parent company, have been hinting that they want to release a consumer version sometime soon.
So it's going to be like a battle between those two to be the first to get their AR glasses out to the masses.
Yeah, it looks like it. Snap's had Spectacles around for a while now, and they've already gone through a few different versions. But then Meta has this enormous user base and tons of money, so who knows? Then, of course, there's Apple lurking around with that Vision Pro headset, but that's a whole other thing with that crazy high price tag.
It really does feel like the Wild West out there.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to figure out how to win in this whole augmented reality thing.
Totally.
It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Definitely. Speaking of trying to stay on top, we can't forget about X, formerly known as Twitter.
Oh yeah, X. They've had quite a year. What are they up to these days?
Trying to stay relevant for sure. One of their big focuses right now is fighting misinformation, and they're trying to make their community notes feature, which is basically crowdsourced fact-checking, more effective.
Community notes, yeah. I've seen those pop up. So how are they trying to make them better? Isn't it just like regular users adding those notes?
Yeah, it's totally community driven. But now they're trying to make the whole process faster, getting those notes to show up quicker. They've got this new thing called Lightning Notes that can add notes in just 15 minutes. That's a huge improvement from the hour or more it used to take.
Okay, so 15 minutes is faster, but that still seems like a long time for misinformation to spread, especially on X,
Right.
Is that really enough to really combat it effectively?
That's the big question. X says these lightning notes, which will have a little lightning bolt icon, will make a real difference because the faster a note pops up, the more likely it is to stop that misinformation before it goes too far.
I see. It does feel a little bit like they're playing catch up, though.
Right.
The speed of information online is just so fast I don't know if any system can really keep up.
It's true. And remember, they're still relying on those volunteer contributors to actually write those notes.
Right, which makes you wonder about bias and whether those notes are actually accurate.
Exactly. It's a tricky situation for them because they want to give users a voice and avoid accusations of censorship, but they also got to protect the platform from harmful stuff.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It really is. It'll be interesting to see if X can actually find that balance and if their community notes can make a real impact.
It's something a lot of platforms are struggling with these days.
Yeah.
How do you balance that freedom of speech with keeping people safe from harmful content? There's just no easy answer.
Nope. It's a dilemma for sure. We could do a whole other deep dive on that one.
Yeah, you're right. We've already covered so much today. I mean, from Reddit's data goldmine to LinkedIn on TV, Snapchat making people shop, and now X fighting misinformation. It's been quite a ride.
It's wild how much these platforms are always changing and adapting.
Okay, well, we'll take a pause here and continue our deep dive in part 2. We'll go even deeper into these developments and look at what the future might hold for tech and social media.
Stay tuned.
See that?
Welcome back to our deep dive into all things tech and social media. Before the break, we were talking about X and how they were trying to fight misinformation using those community notes, which are basically crowdsourced fact-checking.
Right, and we were wondering if, just relying on regular users to fight misinformation is really enough, even with those faster lightning notes.
Yeah, it's definitely a good question, especially with all the information that's flying around X. They've made things faster, but we have to remember that those notes are still written by people who volunteered, and those people aren't professional fact checkers, right?
Exactly. And, social media can be a really passionate place, especially on a platform like X, where people are always sharing their opinions.
Yeah.
So how can they be sure those community notes are accurate and fair when the people writing them might have their own biases?
That is the challenge for X. They say they have ways to check those notes and make sure they're coming from people with different views, but it's really hard to be truly neutral, especially when you think about the possibility of people trying to manipulate the system.
Yeah. Working together to push a certain story or discredit real information.
It's like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
It's trying to stop misinformation when it can pop up anywhere at any time. It's kind of overwhelming.
It definitely is. Even with the best systems, some false info is going to slip through. That's why it's so important that everyone thinks critically about what they see online, no matter what platform they're on.
You're totally right. We can't just believe everything we read on social media. We have to think for ourselves, consider the source, do our own research, look for evidence before believing something is true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got to be active in how we use information, not just passively consume it. And speaking of being active, that makes me think about Snapchat, which is all about participation. Remember those AR spectacles?
Yeah, the glasses that mix the real world with the digital world.
Yeah.
Sounds like science fiction. It kind of does, right? Both Snap and Meta are putting a lot of faith in AR, but they're doing it in different ways. Snapchat's focusing on developers first, giving them early access to those new spectacles so they can experiment and be creative.
So it's like they're saying, here are the tools, now go make awesome AR stuff. But what about people like me who aren't developers? When do we get to play with AR?
Be patient. Both Snap and Meta have said they want to release versions of their AR glasses for everyone soon. It's a race to see who gets there first.
And then there's Apple, right, with a Vision Pro headset, which is super high-tech, but also super expensive.
True. Apple's going after a different group of people. They want the early adopters, the folks who want the newest tech and don't mind paying a lot for it. I wonder if that high price will give Snap and Meta a chance to offer cheaper versions and get more people using their stuff.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like the classic battle of the tech giants, each with their own game plan. But in the end, whether these gadgets succeed depends on more than just the tech, right? It's about the content, the user experience, the things that make AR really cool and useful for everyday people.
Totally. Think about it. You're walking down the street and virtual restaurant reviews pop up.
Yeah.
Or you get directions right there in your vision.
Wow.
The possibilities for AR are endless, from games and entertainment to education and healthcare.
That's amazing. We could be changing how we interact with the world completely. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There are still things that need to be figured out.
Oh yeah, For sure.
The technology has to get better, the glasses have to be comfortable and stylish, and most importantly, developers need to make things that aren't just gimmicks, things that are actually helpful and valuable.
That's a lot to ask. But I'm optimistic because the speed of innovation in AR is crazy fast. We've seen so much progress in just the past couple of years. It's only going to get better.
Okay, so it's exciting to think about the future of AR, but let's bring it back to a company that's trying to connect our work lives and our personal lives, LinkedIn.
Ah, LinkedIn, the giant professional network that's now trying to get on our TVs with those connected TV ads.
It's a bold move, going into a market that's already packed with big players. But LinkedIn seems to think that their data and targeting abilities will make them stand out.
Yeah, their research says that lots of their users already watch CTV, and many of them are the ones making decisions in their companies. So they're basically saying to advertisers, hey, we can put your ad in front of the people who actually have the power to buy your stuff.
That's smart,
Yeah.
especially for businesses who want to reach a very specific group of people. It'll be interesting to see if LinkedIn can really use its professional network to succeed in the world of CTV advertising.
Their success will depend on whether they can offer something that other platforms don't. Traditional TV ads are fading and everyone's moving to streaming services. So what's LinkedIn's unique advantage?
I think their deep knowledge of people's jobs and interests could be their secret weapon. They can target ads based on what industry you're in, what your job title is, how long you've been working, even your skills. That level of detail is just not possible on other CTV platforms.
That's a really good strategy, and it shows a bigger trend we're seeing. Platforms using their data to create more targeted and personal experiences. Whether it's Reddit using data to train AI, LinkedIn putting ads on TVs, or Snapchat making the most of word-of-mouth marketing, it's all about understanding your audience and giving them something valuable.
It's a reminder that data is king in the digital world, but data without insights is meaningless. The platforms that can actually use their data to understand what people want and how they behave, those are the ones that will win.
And that brings up a big question. What does this mean for the creator economy? As these platforms change and get more sophisticated with data and AI, how will that affect the people and businesses who create and share content online?
That's a huge question, one we could spend a lot of time on. We've seen how AI can make hiring easier with that AI hiring assistant from LinkedIn and how Reddit's data is training AI models. But there are also worries about AI, like bias and whether it'll take away jobs.
For sure, AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. We need to talk honestly about AI and how to use it responsibly and ethically.
It's like we're at a turning point, right?
Yeah,
Technology is changing so fast, and it has the potential to completely change our lives, but we need to be careful and make sure we're using these tools in a good way.
I agree. We're in uncharted territory with so many unknowns. It's crucial that we keep talking about both the good and bad of AI and figure out how to use it wisely.
Well said. Let's take a short break to gather our thoughts and get ready for the final part of our deep dive. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into all things tech and social media. We've talked about Reddit's surprising success with data licensing, LinkedIn wanting to be on our TVs, Snapchat changing how people shop, and X trying to fight misinformation. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how all these platforms are dealing with the same big issues like AI, misinformation, and this desire for more authentic online experiences. It's like a perfect picture of what the internet is like right now.
Totally. And let's not forget about the big question: how to make money in this crazy digital world. Reddit's doing it with data, LinkedIn's going for those TV ads, and Snapchat's using its young audience to drive shopping. Everyone's trying to figure it out.
It really makes you think about the future of the creator economy, right? As these platforms use more advanced technology like AI, how will that affect people who make and share content online?
Yeah, like we talked about LinkedIn's AI hiring assistant, which could be a game changer for recruiters. But what about the people applying for jobs?
Yeah.
How do they need to change their strategies in this new AI world?
Exactly. And Reddit making money by selling its data for AI development shows just how valuable that authentic user-generated content is. But it also raises those big questions about data privacy and ownership. Those are conversations we need to be having.
It feels like we're at this point where things are about to change drastically. AI is getting smarter and smarter, and it's definitely changing how we create, share, and consume information online. It's exciting, but it can also be a little scary to think about.
I agree. We're going into uncharted territory, and there's so much we don't know. It's super important to talk openly about the good and bad of AI and how to use it responsibly and ethically.
Definitely. So as we wrap up our deep dive, what's the one big thing you want our listeners to take away from this conversation? What should they be thinking about as they navigate this ever-changing world of tech and social media?
I think the most important thing is to be aware and engaged. Understand what's happening, how technologies like AI are shaping the internet. Think critically about the information you're seeing online and keep learning about how these platforms are changing. Knowledge is power, especially with all this information coming at us all the time.
Perfectly said. And to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in this incredible digital world. Don't be afraid to dive deep, challenge those assumptions, and stay curious. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
And until next time, keep diving.